Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with Jim Ritlin. Here's 10 talents WWE should release in 2019. Now, with the exception of a couple on this list, most of these, in my opinion, are just essentially dead weight, or they have kind of, overstayed their welcome in WWE. That doesn't mean that a lot of these talents are necessarily bad, though I will get into some rants a little bit later in this list, don't you worry. But let's be honest with ourselves. WWE's roster is too damn bloated. It's like WCW's roster in the 90s, especially into the later 90s. It's just too damn bloated. There's too many people, and there's only so much TV. Even with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live, there are only so many hours of programming where some talents just aren't going to be featured like they should be. And like I said, some have overstayed their welcome. So now I'm just going to give my opinions on this, and you guys can let me know in the comments if there are some that you feel should be released. And it's totally fine if you guys want to, just go nuts and everything, but keep in mind this is my opinion, and the rants will come on later. So number 10, Baron Corbin. Let's be honest, it's not working. It's just not. I'm not saying that the guy's that bad in the ring, because he's not. But he's very vanilla. He's very vanilla on the mic. The Constable Corbin gimmick has been terrible. It has been absolutely terrible. The guy is not very good. He had a terrible U.S. title run, so terrible, I had to be reminded that he was U.S. champion. I totally forgot that he was. His run with the Money in the Bank briefcase was ridiculous. I actually thought it might turn out to be a good thing, and it wasn't. It was a horrible cash-in. Pretty much for the last year and a half almost, or at least the last year, he's been essentially just used as a jobber. And anytime he's won any matches, hasn't gone anywhere. Has not gone anywhere at all. I would be very surprised if he stayed around after 2019. Mainly because he hasn't really added anything to the product. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy. That doesn't mean I hate the guy. I just think that he's some dead weight that they should cut. Because what does he really add? I mean, I don't really think anything. Now we go on number 9, Brian Kendrick. With Brian Kendrick, I'm less about releasing him and more about just having him as a trainer. I think he's done everything he can on 205 Live. He had that brief run with the Cruiserweight title. It was fine for what it was, but that was back in 2016. I just don't think that I just don't see it. I just don't see him being somebody that they keep around as an active talent past next year without making him a trainer. He's done fine. He's had a good career renaissance, and it's great to see, but I just don't see it. To me, he's basically a jobber to the stars. That's essentially what he is. He's still a really good in-ring talent, but he's just there. He's just there to me. That's not knocking a guy. He's just there. And then we move on to one that may be controversial. Number 8, Hideo Itami. Injuries have undercut a lot of what he could do in NXT and also on the main roster. I'm sorry, it's not working. It's just not. He had a really good match with Mustafa Ali. He's had some decent matches on 205 Live, but it just doesn't make up for the fact that his run has essentially been a flop. That's my take on it. That's not saying that he's a flop. That's not saying he's a bad talent. That's not saying he's a bad wrestler. Far from it. He's an exceptional talent. But it's time. It's time to move on. Maybe he can go back to Pro Wrestling Noah, or he can get a spot in New Japan or something, but next year it's time, because really, what has he done that's been exceptional besides maybe that match with Mustafa Ali? Yeah, the whole respect me thing. He's good in the ring, but nothing about him screams, okay, I gotta watch a match because he's in it. At least in a WWE ring. Some talents do not translate well to WWE rings. Some translate better to, some do better in Japan and maybe ROH and that kind of stuff. Yes, injuries have played a factor, but to me, I think it's time, just cut him. But have him play out his contract and cut him. Just my take. Number 7, The Ascension. When's the last time The Ascension did anything? And no, their endless feud with Bobby Roode and Chad Gable does not count. They had the Fashion Files thing with, the Fashion Police, Fandango and Tyler Breeze. The Ascension have meant absolutely nothing since getting called up to the main roster. Absolutely goddamn fuck all. It's not that they, with the exception of a couple on this list, a lot of them are really, really good athletes, but the Ascension are seen as just fucking losers. Nothing can be done to rebuild them. Nothing at this point. You could put them on SmackDown. You can put him back on SmackDown, you have him go on a tear and that kind of stuff, nobody's going to believe it. Nobody's going to fucking believe it. Because they've jobbed these guys out for now almost going on 4 fucking years. Because, like, you know, back in, like, early 2015, that's when they started jobbing them out. Any matches that they won didn't really pop. Like, no one really gives a shit. And, it's not knocking the guys. It's how they've been booked. But this is a team where I can't fucking see them lasting past next year. I know every wrestling company has certain roles and certain people need to be jobbers, but they beat them in the powder so damn much. Them going somewhere else might actually be a good thing for them. It's just, it's a shame. I'm not saying they were ever going to be world beaters, but they were booked right in NXT. Even if they weren't that great, they were booked right. And this just has not worked at all. So it's time to cut them. Number 6, Dana Brooke. There's nothing against Dana Brooke as a person. I'm sure she's tried. It's not there. It's not there for her to be a wrestler. Am I saying she's not a good athlete? Sure, she's a very good athlete. It is not there for her to be a wrestler. You want to have her be Apollo Crews' manager, like they were alluding to before, or have something like that. She was a really good, you know, I won't say manager, but like, you know, extra for Emma. Like, I mean, I know that's really a long time ago. That's like back almost 3 years ago. But that sort of worked. That was doing some good stuff. And then they brought her up. And then she was put with Charlotte. That didn't work. Dana Brooke has a place as a manager or valet. I'm just not seeing it as a wrestler. If they're going to insist on keeping her as a wrestler, it's time to go. When's the last time she was featured in anything prominent? Like, and no, a Battle Royal doesn't count. Because in a Battle Royal, not a lot of people get over, and especially until you get to the last, like, 5 or 4. Dana Brooke has basically been seen, essentially, as a complete loser. She had, like, I think a brief teaming with Ember Moon or something like that. That didn't work. Yeah, what good has it done? What good has it done? It has done nothing. She has not really been able to show any ton of improvement in the ring. Now, you could argue she hasn't really been given a chance, but, you know, I'm sure she's working on house shows. I'm sure that's the case. I don't see it. I think it's time to cut her. Or at least put her as manager or valet. Put her in a role maybe she's more suited for. But just wrestling, I just don't know if in-ring competition is for her. I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe she has a breakout 2019 and becomes champion. Maybe she wins Money in the Bank and cashes in. Who knows? But I don't think she's good as... She's good in the ring. I don't think she's good enough to justify being kept on as a wrestler. Number 5, Eric Rowan. This guy is so injured all the damn always. And I know that some people get bit by the injury bug and doesn't let go. Rowan is a good athlete, but he's good only in tag teams. He is not good as a single star. And they pretty much squashed any potential with him as a single star, I think back in 2014 when Big Show beat him in a stairs match. Never forget how fucking terrible that was. I still have nightmares from how bad that goddamn match was. Eric Rowan is currently dealing with an injury after the Bludgeon Brothers have been champions from like Mania to just after SummerSlam, and they dropped the titles back to New Day to SmackDown after SummerSlam. Rowan's injured. I'm not saying release him while he's injured, but once he comes back, if he's back in time for Mania, feature him in the Battle Royal. But if it's time, yeah, I think it's time to cut him. He's a big guy. I'm sure he's physically imposing. He hits some good moves when he's able to, but he's so often injured. They're paying him basically. They're paying him to sit on the sidelines more than they are paying for him to be in the ring. And again, you take him as a single star, he's not any good. You have to keep him in tag teams. And Harper should be a breakout single star. At least that's my opinion. But it's time for Eric Rowan to be cut. And now we move on to the Colognes. How the fuck are the Colognes still employed? This is not anything against them as people. How the fuck are they still employed? I mean, I know that one's injured while the others healed, and then vice versa and stuff like that. But they were Primo and Epico. Then they were Los Matadors, which was a terrible gimmick. Absolutely abysmal. No matter how much they tried to make it work, I hated that. I hated that gimmick, even though they are good athletes. And they are good athletes. And then they were the timeshare salesmen. salesman, and that didn't really work. And now they're just Primo and Epico, and it just doesn't work. It's just not working. I mean, are they just there because they've been so often injured that that WWE's just adding time onto their contracts so they can get the most out of them? I don't know what the deal is. All I know is this: it's time to cut them. They have meant absolutely nothing. Get rid of them. Have them. They could do well in Ring of Honor, do well on other indies, but WWE, it's just not going to fucking work. And now we move on to Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal is a former WWE champion, a former US champion. Jinder Mahal also has probably had one of the worst 2018s post-WrestleMania. After he losing the title, the US title to Jeff Hardy, he had that feud with Roman Reigns that was absolutely abysmal. And it just was because the crowd just didn't give a shit. I mean, they fucking didn't. No one cared. I didn't care about the feud. I love how the crowd was completely shitting all over the damn thing. Jinder now is just a jobber. He's right back to where he was before they gave him the rocket push right after Mania 33. In fact, I think he's actually worse. People say, oh, he could say he's a former WWE champion, and that was terrible. And it wasn't that he didn't try, he just wasn't very good. But just with Jinder, I mean, yes, the guy improved his physique however he did. I think we all know how he did, but whatever. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see how in the world he's going to still be employed past next year, unless he likes staying around as a jobber and they like keeping him around as a jobber, because I don't see him getting any significant push. I don't see him winning the Intercontinental title. I see him getting tossed out of the Rumble routinely. I think if they keep him on throughout the years, I think it's about time to cut him. If he's like backstage and they want to keep him, great, but it's just, yeah, you need jobbers, but there are so many people that they could use as jobbers otherwise. Like, just use Tyler Breeze and use others. Jinder is just not that good. He's not. And it's probably time to cut him. And now we're going to get to the last two where rants are going to happen. Nia Jax, look, I'm not calling for her to get injured or her to die. And those that are, you guys are trash. So let me say that right here. And I did do a rant on the recent SmackDown review from earlier this week. You guys can go check that out, by the way. I really enjoyed doing that one. Nia Jax has injured so many damn people. She nearly dropped Charlotte on her goddamn neck trying to do a shoulder breaker. Good job. Injured Bayley. Injured Zelina. Alexa's been injured because of her. Ember had to take some time off, I believe, after a, bump with, a bad bump with Nia. You saw Nia unable to do a backdrop on, proper backbreaker, rather, on Asuka and just drop her instead of dropping her on her knee. Good job there. Look, they called her up way too soon. Maybe put her in the performance center, this kind of stuff, but at this point, the only reason she's there is because of Dwayne, because they don't want to make Dwayne unhappy, because they apparently think that The Rock is that damn important. Don't get me wrong, The Rock is one of the greatest of all time, but they do not need to placate to him by keeping Nia on the roster. Nia is just not very good. She is not worth the time. Besides name recognition or who she's attached to, what does she have to fucking offer? Oh, and people can say, oh, she's a bigger woman, so she gives women and, gives, plus size women more inspiration to get into wrestling. You shouldn't need a botch machine to be inspired to get into wrestling, whether you're plus size or not. Vanessa Craven is somebody who was in the Mae Young Classic. And I mean, I wouldn't call her plus size, I would call her big as far as tall. She's somebody they could employ. Piper Niven, Viper, as they called her. She is somebody that could work for, I mean, she's doing her own thing and whatever, and that's great. She's somebody. I'm sure there are plenty of others that I'm totally fucking missing, and I apologize for forgetting any of that, as I forget some names on the indies. But Nia Jax should not just be there because she gives inspiration to plus-size women. If she was at least decent in the ring and did that, then great. They could market that and it would be fan-fucking-tastic. But again, does Nia deserve the injury threats or the death threats? No, she does not. But Nia is a fucking garbage heap in the ring. I said it before. She's like, she has the mobility and ability of a couch that's been left out in the ring for 10 goddamn days. I've seen three-legged gazelles that are dead that move better than her in the ring. She is not graceful. She cannot really move. She cannot do anything. She's a fucking atrocity when it comes to putting on any kind of good match. And okay, can I put on a good match? No. That's why I never got into wrestling. There are certain women that are not cut out for wrestling. Nia would be fine as a bodyguard and put her in tag matches, but even then she'd probably botch trying to get through the goddamn ropes, or probably would punch out the goddamn referee. And yeah, I'm going to go with the Becky Lynch thing, because whether she knew it was Becky or not, she just straight up friggin' punches her in the goddamn face. And Nia trying to say, oh, we don't deliver mail and this kind of stuff. No, Nia, because you'd probably botch that too. You'd probably end up sending letters right into people's heads or throwing packages off a goddamn bridge, because that's how much you botch shit. Nia is just this terrible, terrible wrestler. Adds nothing to the goddamn product. The only reason she's there is because of Dwayne. Is she a terrible person? No. By all rights and accounts, I'm sure she is a very nice person. And if she gets upset because of some of the stuff that's said to her, look, again, the death threats, the injury threats, nah, that's bullshit. And you guys are saying that are not real goddamn wrestling fans. But calling for her to be fired, I do not think is unreasonable. They should send her back to, the performance center at the very least to get some more training. But even then, I don't think at this point it's going to help. She's been in the business for what, 3-4 years, something like that. She's just, it's not working. She's actually regressed. And that's saying something. She's injured too many people, whether she's meant to or not. I mean, I don't know how many of them were intentional, but she just doesn't seem to understand or grasp the basic concept of taking care of her opponents. If I was a woman getting ready to wrestle Nia Jax, I'd be fucking terrified. Because whether Nia means to or not, she has been fucking botching a whole damn lot. Injuring a whole lot of people and doing a lot of terrible shit. She doesn't really know what the fuck she's doing. And they need to fucking fire her. Just get rid of her. They won't, because they don't want to piss off Dwayne. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, or Rock the Dwayne Johnson. But yeah, Nia Jax should be fired. Because she's a liability at this point. I don't think she's salvageable. And she's going to be, and this is not even an age thing, but for her, at her age, I mean, whether she got into business when she did or not, whether she'd been training for a bit and then suddenly started wrestling, like at age 30 or whatever. She's 30, she's going to be 35 next year. If she hasn't learned it by now, I'm sorry, it's not salvageable. Get rid of her or have her be a bodyguard, but don't have her wrestle. Something like that. Because just really at this point, she can't do anything without injuring somebody. Charlotte, Ember, Zelina, Alexa, Bayley, Becky, those are just the ones we know about. She can't do anything. She can't do anything other than injure people. So get her out of the fucking ring. Number 1, Tamina. Her dad's a goddamn murderer, and that's not her damn fault. But Tamina should not be employed anymore. She's been injured a whole lot, but she can't even move. I mean, did you see the splash that she hit on a recent episode of Raw? My fucking Christ. It's like she could have just fallen down, like stood up, fallen down, and hit with more impact than what she hit with there. It was just an atrocity. She cannot wrestle anymore. She really couldn't fucking wrestle to begin with anyway. But she should not be employed anymore. I get that they're probably doing it maybe out of sympathy due to the fact of who her dad was. But yeah, this experiment is over. She's also somebody who has not aged gracefully. There are so many women into their 40s that wrestle well. Tamina has never wrestled well, and she started, I think, in her early 30s or maybe even late 20s. I don't know how much she wrestled before she got to WWE, but she's been with the company since, 2009? And we're coming up on almost 10 years here, and she's spent almost as much time on the sidelines as Eric Rowan has. I mean, for fuck's sake, get Tamina out of the ring, Have her be somebody that imparts wisdom on the other women. Like, here's how you don't get injured. Here's how you don't botch. And here's how you get away from the fact that your dad's a murderer. That's not her fault, but it's just, I just still can't get over the fact that WWE basically treated Jimmy Snuka like this great guy. And he fucking murdered somebody. But Tamina is somebody that they do not need. She adds nothing to the product. So, yeah, that's my rant at the very end for that. So what do you think? Who are some talents that you think should be released by WWE? Bear in mind that I'm not saying the vast majority of these talents are bad, but that it's time to trim, or cut some of the dead weight or whatever. Trim the fat, cut some of the dead weight, whatever cliche you want to use. It's time to do it because WWE really needs to look at the fact that they have such a bloated roster. Nobody's going to get over if they don't cut some people. Anyway, that's my opinion. What do you think? Agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. It's been Real Honesty with Jarmethlin, and I will see you soon.